Hello, hello. How is everybody? For some reason, my eyebrows are all over the place today on my model. Maybe I need to work on the model settings here for a second. Brow sensitivity. Let me lower that down just a little. Okay, that looks better to me. Hi, how y'all doing? I didn't want to seem too serious. But yeah. Alright, so we got a couple people here, hoping a couple more people show up later. But today we are going to be reading some creepypastas and spooky stories as part of, you know, Halloween, but also as our monthly literature club meeting that I started having last month. I figured it was a fun, you know, interaction to do that kind of works for both things, so. Oh, I also have spooky music. I forgot to turn on the spooky music. Hold on. Spooky music, come back. Come back to me. This is spooky music. So I got a spooky track commissioned just for me. It's called Witch's Curse, done by the amazing Thera. I have it right here, and I will play it for everyone. It will be the background music you will be hearing while I'm reading the spooky stories. If it's a bit too loud, please let me know, and I will adjust the settings as needed. Trying to set the tone, you know. Deep dark in the woods, there was a witch who was cursed by an evil, terrible, terrible sorcerer. Yeah, I handed out candy last night, and I dressed up as Hellgirl. I posted a picture on my Twitter, and we carved pumpkins and stuff, and just kind of hung out and watched a scary movie. So it was a very chill Halloween, but it was a Halloween nonetheless. Alright. So, Heather lore story time. So, this will eventually be written into Heather's lore novel, called Heather's Journey. But eventually, that will be released, but I have not started writing it yet. So, the story behind this song that I commissioned for is that Heather has become cursed by an evil sorcerer, and while she is cursed, she is trapped in a nightmare world where everything she touches turns into a demonic, cursed, like, demon of ink, so to speak, where she writes with her own ink and usually creates stories and beautiful things, but they turn into something dark and demonic within this world. And she has to learn how to escape this world, all the while dealing with her own personal emotional demons. So, that's the spooky Heather arc. I don't have a model change or anything, but it's the spooky Heather story. Yeah. I'll eventually get it written out as a full, you know, story, but that's the spooky part of her journey. Thank you, Boom. Thank you. Yeah, so not a lot of spooky stuff happens to Heather, but her dealing with, you know, her own powers turning beautiful things into terrible demonic forces, that's kind of something that would be a little traumatizing and a little scary, I feel like. So that is what I wanted her story to be about. Her spooky story to be about. Not everything about the story is going to be spooky. Alright. Are you guys ready for some stories? That's why we're here, I suppose. Everybody ready? Gotta set the tone, you know. Normally I'd have my model in the middle, but when I go to pull up the window for the spooky stories, you'll see why I have my model over here. Because it takes up the whole entire screen. Okay! Alright, so we're still in the woods, but in order for you to see the window, I'm going to take away the background picture. But just imagine, you're deep in the woods. Darkness has fallen over all. You can no longer see the trees or the ground. You can only see me and the scary story that I am bestowing upon you. Behold, the creepypastas! Yay! Aw, come on, don't leave! It's okay. No worries. No worries, you can leave. I thought you were like, it's too scary, I have to leave. Heather's gonna curse me or something. No, you're good. Alright, so I've actually heard the song and actually played the game of this for a cultural festival at my school one year. But I've not read the creepypasta version of this game/story. So this is based off an old Japanese kids game called Kagome Kagome, which is like everyone goes around in a circle and like tries to, it's like a weird game of tag, but somebody took the song, made it into a Vocaloid, or somebody took the concept, made it into a Vocaloid song, and it turned out super creepy. So, Kagome Kagome. The Nazi reign was famous for its backdoor scientists and occult researchers. Special expeditionary divisions of the Reich were often sent out in search of artifacts or locations of occult or religious significance. Meanwhile, in Germany, bunkers were assembled and mansions and castles were fitted with labyrinths and dungeons which were filled with strange experiments and research notes. Whenever the Allies found these places, they were often gutted, burned, or otherwise destroyed and abandoned. Whenever a lab was found intact, the research was often incoherent or missing, or later destroyed by the Allies to prevent the Nazis from recovering any hidden data. A lot of the Nazi experiments were kept under the radar. Until recently, veterans who served as guards to the labs and ritual zones have explained what they have seen, or folders and books have been uncovered in boxes and crates belonging to the scientists. A fair few of these contain a common research goal. Exactly the true power is often up to debate, but it appears that this is often described in Nazi research as immortality, unable to die, invincibility, or other factors surrounding losing the capacity to die in some way or another. The larger part of this research was actually legitimately based. Certain doses of chemical compounds to aid blood flow in aging people. First concepts that are now used in today's transplant surgery, grafting, ointments that renewed skin, antibodies to various diseases, and fitness dieting research. However, one set of crates disappeared in Hamburg in 1999, went way off of this research style. This stuff crossbred the occult experiments and immortality research. The introductory folders and proofs of concept of the research began with the principle that the brain controls the body completely and wholly, and as the body slowly degrades around it, it continues to function. Further statements say that the reason the body is left to degrade is because the human brain is set on a biological timer, such as why butterflies can only live a day, yet other insects can often last longer. The brain tells us to die. It is proposed that, as the brain grows, it begins to make connections, resulting in the human becoming more mature and having an advancing brain. At the age of 35 to 50, however, these connections slowly break down, resulting in forgetfulness, dementia, and other mental diseases reserved for the elderly. Yeah, 35's a bit elderly, yeah, sure. The Nazi scientists propose that the brain has a universal kill switch that activates as soon as the brain is fully developed. In all normal humans, this kill switch will initiate a shutdown sequence in bodily functions, which occurs over several decades. As soon as the body is fully shut down, the brain will be forced to die through the lack of oxygenated blood. It is said that the Werner syndrome, a disease where a person ages rapidly, is a result of the kill switch function activating far too early. The Nazis proposed that they could remove the kill switch and give the human mind immortality, and from that, complete immortality. Needless to say, brain surgery was incredibly difficult during those times, but it was impossible. But it was possible. In the stacks of folders there were many different diagrams and past research on the brain, psychology, the human mind, and the like. The experiments were initially proposed to Nazi executives in 1940, and permission was granted to perform the experiments in 1942, under one condition. The experiments must be conducted outside of Germany. The German populace must not see the experiment in any way, shape, or form. It was no surprise to the scientists that the executives were paranoid about public relations. But the idea of performing the research outside of the fatherland was foreign in itself. Most experiments were performed in bunkers or basements. Regardless, the scientists complied, and were able to organize a setup with their ally, Japan. In late 1942, the research had begun. Here's where it gets strange. The research team had taken over a Japanese orphanage. The orphanage was in the hills, supposedly somewhere in Shimane, an area nearby Hiroshima. The scientists deduced that if they tried to take the usual test subjects, older deceased people with nothing left to live for, similar in a fashion to a gateway of the mind, they would be playing with the variable disease, or, more importantly, they would be experimenting on a brain that has already had an activated kill switch, rendering it useless in the context of finding the solution. As a result, the Nazi scientists demanded that children, namely the orphans in the orphanage which they deemed to, again, have nothing else to live for, would become test subjects, their young brains eliminated any cause for concern of an already activated kill switch. To begin the experiments, the children went through numerous immunizations and intense psychological testing to ensure that they would prevent any defects and keep a general benchmark for their subjects. Next, they began with the older staff at the orphanage. Put under anesthetic, the surgeons opened up their skulls to find a good cross-section of an adult brain, and began to find key differences between it and a child's brain. After gaining a model of both a child brain and an adult brain, the scientists deduced that the universal kill switch wasn't located in the brain, but in the cerebellum, located at the rear. The cerebellum commands all subconscious activity in the brain, which is understandable since it isn't as conscious action to set off the kill switch. Systematically, they took the tallest child in the orphanage, began to open her up. They were about to begin their first kill switchectomy. They had managed to open up the cerebellum and remove the part presumed to be the kill switch. However, upon closing the subject up, they found that she had expired. They assumed that the incisions on the brain had been too brash and required far more precision. The body was dumped in the forest behind the orphanage. After imports of different tools and different techniques developed, scientists were finally able to remove the kill switch and successfully revive the patients. In May 1943, they had taken one of the youngest girls in the orphanage and removed the kill switch. The only function she lost was the ability to sweat. After their assumed success, the scientists had celebrated, after which everyone went to sleep. The next morning, the girl did not wake up, and was revealed to be comatose. After a while, she was revived successfully, and the kill switchectomies continued. The initial success gave the doctors a new state of mind, one of refreshment. They were able to continue their experiments with the ease of mind that the theory was proven. Well, so they assumed. Before the doctors continued their removal research, they commissioned several doctors in from Moscow who were trained in the practice of bodily removal. Bodily revival, technically zombification, however, it relies on the principles of using electric shocks and artificial hearts to power the body back up. They stated the reason for this was that the original subject always became comatose or clinically dead whenever she went to sleep, and then revived herself in the morning. She had no signs of this behavior before the experiment. Despite the fact that she had been revived, doctors did not want the risk of success turning into a failure. The Russian scientists were put up to the task of bringing her back to life whenever she expired. After several days of this, Nazis concluded that it was safe to continue. Project Venom was a Russian experiment to create super soldiers from the theory of Dr. Frankenstein. It may also form a basis for the Marvel superhero as well. As a repayment for the use of Russian scientists, Russia had asked that they combine the research project of Venom with the Nazis' ongoing experiments. Naturally, the Nazis agreed. However, the limited number of orphans was debilitating. As the Nazis required so many of them, they could only offer a single girl. The Russians were content and began their proof of concept. They had artificially created an arm over in Moscow, which was on its way to the orphanage to be grafted on, to prove that amputation and replacement could work. In the meantime, the Russians had prepared for this. The girl's right arm was amputated. Mysteriously, shortly after, the Russian scientists packed up their equipment and left. The replacement arm never came, and the girl was left with a bandage strapped over her kimono perpetually. The Russians were said to have left with a fearful haste, as if suddenly the air had turned too cold for their taste. One child out of the whole orphanage did not approve of the scientist's presence. In her acts of rebellion, she stole paperwork and ripped it to shreds, broke glassware and wrecked surgery theaters. Despite her young age, 8 years old, and size, she had surprising capacity for destruction. It was noted in a journal that she was heterochromic as well, brown and blue eyes from left to right. The senior scientists despised her, but could not restrain her without arousing suspicion. Instead, they ordered the Nazi soldiers to take care of her. She was brutally beheaded with a blunt bayonet. She was not buried, just left in the woods behind the orphanage. The soldiers told the caretakers that she had found a new family. Wow. The Nazi scientists attempted to play around with their successful experiment by trying different aspects to it. Sadly, none of them worked. Here is a list of them. Entry through the forehead, performed on a 10-year-old boy. Skull was deformed and the boy had been virtually lobotomized by the end of it. However, he wasn't vegetative as a result, although he was mentally retarded due to the experiment. Entry through the lower jaw, performed on a 6-year-old girl. The tongue and most of the flesh on the lower jaw was removed and could not be replaced. The subject's sinuses were also scrambled. Entry through the side of the head. Subject was reluctantly half-deaf. It should also be noted that there was no anesthetic during the surgery and screams were truly mortifying, as most journals read. Despite the failure of these, kill switches were still removed, and the subjects acted in much the same way as the first girl, expiring upon sleep. However, they were reduced to a mere 10 people due to all the previous failures. This is including the caretakers, and they had performed surgery on all the children. The doctors began to formulate ideas that in a child, a kill switch isn't already activated, but in an adult, a kill switch could be reversed using a chemical compound to eliminate the hormone produced and the kill switch then removed. This was performed on all of the caretakers and was surprisingly successful as they all survived. During the experiments, scientists were told to watch over the successful children and monitor their behavior. This part gets freaky. They appear normal at first, just like any of the other children, playing cheerfully, learning normally, but when separated from others, they seem off. They stroll carelessly around with a blank smile on their face, their eyes looking straight at you. If approached from behind, their heads snap around with ungodly speed, and for a moment, you can almost see an expression so vile on their face that it makes you want to cower. But then you realize they are just forming their dreamy smile again. Another thing is that they follow us, but only when we are on our own. After finishing on my typewriter and heading to my room, I am often given a fright by one of the children standing several meters down the dark hallway, staring at me. When I go off to my room, she follows me, and I shut my door, jam a chair behind it, and then I sleep safely. Feels like they're ghosts at nighttime. The funny thing is, I keep seeing one child with reddish hair. I keep asking who the child is the next morning, but the caretakers say they haven't seen a child with reddish hair for a while. They also seem to be playing a game, a lot more than when we started. I haven't got much knowledge of Japanese, but it seems the game is called Circle You, as described by one of the translators. A group of children surround one child who sits in the center, alone. They link arms and begin to move in a circular manner around the child, making scary faces at them and singing an eerie chant. You lose if you flinch. That's not the version I played, but okay. Upon talking to them, I've noticed they seem more dreamy, forgetful, and somewhat blank, as if those experiments wiped their memories as well. But it's not an innocent type of dreamy, rather something more sinister. They stare at you with wide eyes, and ask you questions never thought they would know. And ask you questions you never thought they would know, I guess is what that's trying to say. One asked, when your grandmother died, did she really leave you a gold-plated watch? It may seem crazy, but my honest answer was yes. Kagome Kagome means circle, circle. The game translates to circle you, circle you. The child who rebelled against the scientists had reddish hair. Huh. In early 1945, Hiroshima is bombed. Germany forfeits, and the experiments are ground to a halt. The Germans begin packing up their equipment. Most of them have already returned home due to their mental warfare. Stating that they showed signs of insanity, only 4 scientists remained. After sending the last of the equipment off, the scientists deemed it only justified that they informed the caretakers that they were leaving, and they did so. And to the horror of the scientists and the surprise of the rest, the head caretaker said, in fluent German, "Will you play one last game with us?" The 3 scientists agreed, and a circle of children and caretakers formed around them. Now, if you flinch, you lose. The one horrified scientist ran to the last truck and jumped on it without looking back. If you go to Hiroshima, go around the woods. You may find some dirt trails there. If you travel down them, you will see beautiful forests. But if you travel down one that has signs of trucks going through, you will feel cold, and you will see that a lot of trees are cut down. But don't wander from the path, or you'll likely get lost in those vast woods. If you pay attention, you will notice that the tree stumps look like kneeling people, missing heads. If you continue, the air will get cold. Naturally, because you're climbing uphill, right? Of course, eventually you will reach a clearing, with an old stone building in the center, vines covering the place. Go inside, if you want to play. As soon as you open the door, a foul smell will come out, similar to that of a rotting corpse. If you look down the hall, it will be dark regardless of the time of day, since there are no lights. Continue down the hall, take the first left, and then go down that hall until you see one door that appears to be made of red-colored wood. The rest are brown. Open the door, you will find 10 happy children and caretakers, all wearing kimonos, playing in a normal playroom. One is missing her arm, another is missing his forehead, and a third lacks a jaw, but all are bandaged with clinical precision. This place should be very clean and tidy, depending on your standard of such things, and well lit. At once, your presence will draw attention of everyone in the room, including the ones that look far too preoccupied or distracted. They will turn to look at you, carefree smiles from each of their pleasant faces. The head caretaker in all of her beauty will ask, "Will you come play with us?" By this time, if you haven't soiled your pants, you really should, to save you the trouble later. If you say no, the door will slam shut on you, and if you try to go down the hallways out the exit, you will only find another dark hallway. Open any of the brown doors, and you should find operating tables or bunk beds. If you continue down the third hallway, you will realize that a girl is standing several meters behind you, her face shrouded by shadow. Approach it, and expect your doom. Continue down the hallway. Try not to let her catch you. If you say yes, however, you will be welcomed into the room. The door will close behind you, and everyone will form a circle around you. Now sit down and don't flinch. Flinch, a cheerful voice will say. Just follow the instructions, and you will survive. All light will disappear from the room, yet you can see the circle of children, each with a vicious expressions on their face. One so vile you will probably flinch straight up. If you can stomach that, though, they will begin to move around you, slowly. You may feel one of them lash towards you. If you look up, however, there will be nothing there, besides the children circling normally. If that wasn't enough, They will begin chanting, Kagome, Kagome. I really can't explain any further. No one ever likes to tell the tale of what happens then. If you flinch before they chant, they simply continue as normal. If you choose to say maybe to the head caretaker, or anything other than yes or no, it is told that the children's expressions will turn mortifying, Zelgonic almost. They will scream in inhuman voices, decide, decide. If you do anything besides say yes or no from here, it is told that the children and caretakers will slam the door on you. If you turn around, the story varies. Supposedly, your worst fear will be waiting at the other end of the hallway, separating you from your exit. Most notably, this character is Akamanto, or the Rake. Least you could do is greet the creature before he tears you into oblivion. If he has the capacity, he may well respond, and you will die as a polite person. Don't greet him, and you will end up as another one of the beheaded bodies along the trail. If you respond, I don't understand, and you must be genuine, the head caretaker will say, go to your school and watch children play. You should understand then. Nothing will have changed, and close the door on your way out. It's common courtesy. Huh. So what happens if you win? Did they just let you go? Huh. So this was based on a true, like, obviously most of it was probably, like, fabricated. But it's based off of a true story. They did research stuff in Japan, and they did experiment on children in an orphanage. So that's interesting. Huh. Interesting. Right? He did such a great job on this track. This was done by Thera. He's on Fiverr if you want to support him and get your own music from him. He does great work. Hi Dylan! Welcome to a stream. And I will get to your message, Boom. I was trying to finish the story first. Yeah, you can show me. Oh, Thera, it's in my credits, if you want to go to my About page, but it is spelled like this. Ooh. Okay, I'm looking through the different stories to try to find some good ones. There's some, like, that are obvious, like Jeff the Killer and Slender Man and stuff like that. There was one I wanted to read called Annie is Typing? It's an internet one. Okay. Annie96 is typing. You should be able to find him. He is on Twitter and stuff as well, but he's under a different name. He's also in the Discord, if you would like to find him there. I'm glad it's good, because I thought this looked interesting when I saw it on the list, so... While playing around with WhatsApp, I stumbled across a weird chat history between two people I don't know. It scared the hell out of me. When I tried to find it again, the app crashed and kept crashing. Luckily, I managed to make a copy. Here it is. Annie96. You asleep? McDavie. No. Guess you're not either. Annie96. Can't. It's the wind. Sounds like cats fighting. What's your excuse? McDavie. Studying. Sad face. Annie96. So that's what they call porn now. McDavie is typing. Annie, what the fuck? Not denying it. I still can't believe what Johnny did today. Me neither. That boy has issues. WTF, the wind's so loud. That doesn't seem normal, LOL. No wind over here. Just rain. Lucky you. I need my beauty sleep. Damn right you do. What? You mean I look? Shit, I think I heard footsteps on the gravel outside. Get your crazy dad to check it out. I'm home alone. The fam are on holidays, remember? I told you this. Really? Till when? We should hang out. They really sound like footsteps, but there's something odd about them. I should look out the window, but my bed is so warm. You sure you want to look out the window when you're alone? What if there really is someone there in your garden, looking at you? Not funny, David. Wow, chill. I'm sure it's nothing. Gonna check. BRB. If there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you gonna call? Annie96 is typing. David, there's someone in the garden. What? Really? Yes, I could see a man's back. What's he doing? Annie96 is typing. He's looking for something? On his hands and knees in the bushes. McDavie is typing. He must be high. Probably looking for his drugs. David, this is serious. What should I do? Nothing. He'll probably go away by himself. Oh my god. Now he's digging with his bare hands. He's ruining the garden. Shit, he's looking around. What does he look like? Annie96 is typing. David, what the fuck? This isn't funny. What? How are you doing that? What are you talking about? Annie96 is typing. I can see you. In my garden. How are you writing here without touching your phone? Look up. I'm by the window. Can't you hear me banging on it? Fuck, Annie. Now you're scaring me too. I'm definitely not in your garden. That's not me. Stop playing around. I can see your face. You're wearing that stupid football jacket you're so proud of. It must be someone who looks like me. Honestly, Annie, I'm at home. I wouldn't play around like that. It has to be a friend of yours, David. Playing a sick prank. How else could it be wearing your jacket? There are loads of jackets like that. My friends don't look anything like me. You just have me on your mind. He's digging again. Fucking leave already. Annie, do you have a gun in your house? Annie96 is typing. Don't be stupid, David. I couldn't shoot anyone. You don't have to use it. Just show that you're carrying. Annie96 is typing. Doesn't that jacket have your name on the back? Yeah, the team all got one with their name on. I can see your fucking name. What? What the hell is this, David? McDavie is typing. Annie, that jacket's in my closet. Fuck, he sees me. Why is he smiling like that? He's coming. Call the cops. Annie! Annie, pick up! McDavie is typing. I've called the cops, told them there's a break-in attempt at your place. They said they're on their way, but it'll take about a half an hour. Annie, are you there? Annie96 is typing. It's in the house. Can't talk. I have to be quiet. Lights off. I'm in a closet with a knife. Hard to type, shaking so much. Fuck. Fuck, hang in there, Annie. The police will be there in 20 minutes. Do you know where he is? It. Now he. The look it had when it saw me, David. No person could look like that. Jesus Christ, does it know where you are? No. I grabbed the knife when I saw it running towards the house, and I got in the closet when I heard it breaking in. Okay, good. You'll be fine. Chucky doesn't have the brains to find someone hiding in the closet. The police will be there soon. Oh god. It's calling out to me. It doesn't sound like you, David. Its voice is so deep, filling the house, filling my head. What is it saying? Annie96 is typing. Come out, Annie. I just want to look at you. It keeps repeating that over and over. Annie96 is typing. Have I gone mad, David? Is this what it feels like? Just 10 more minutes, Annie. Keep it together. You are so strong, you will get through this. It's coming up the stairs, but so slowly. Irregular steps. Why does it look like you, David? Why you? I don't know, Annie. Please believe me. Can you make it stop? Please make it stop. I would if I could, I promise you. It's at the end of the hall. David, I didn't say anything to my parents when they left. I was listening to music. Is that the last time I see them? Annie. Annie96 is typing. This has something to do with you, David. Only you can make it stop. Think fast. I don't know, Annie. God, please. Please. McDavie is typing. It might be. Because I think about you so much. I think about you all the time. Annie96 is typing. So stop. I don't know how. It's scraping something on the walls. The wall's getting closer. Please, David. I'm trying so hard. Annie96 is typing. It's slowing down. Try harder. Annie96 is typing. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Annie 96 is typing. It stopped. I can't hear anything. Really? Don't go out yet. Stay put until the police get there. What should I tell them if he's gone? Everything, Annie. Everything you told me. I didn't know you felt that way about me, David. I'm so glad it stopped. Can you come over in the morning, David? I really need to see you. Of course, Annie. I'll be there. Great, can't wait. McDavius typing. Annie? McDavius typing. Annie, how do I know this is you? Annie 96 went offline. What? What just happened? Was it her? It reminds me of like those old chat rooms back in like the 90s. Oh, why is my model freaking out? Hold on. Calm down. It's okay. The story broke my model. Hold on. Let me calibrate it again. Okay, it's good. Huh. So, like, what was the point? Yeah, there's a lot of interesting internet ones. Huh. I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. So, like, she said it stopped whenever he stopped thinking about her. But she said she saw him out there. But he doesn't even know if that was actually her typing? Huh. So maybe it was all a fabricated story and she was just trying to, like... There is a chance it got to her, it was all a hoax. Yeah, that's true. Maybe, it had already gotten to her and it was a ghost. Replaying the scene or something. Interesting. Ooh, this is another one, that I wanted to read. Blindmaiden.net. Blind Maiden is a scary urban legend from Spain, but a bizarre website that offers you the ultimate horror experience. Unfortunately, the experience can prove to be lethal. There is a new urban legend that has been circulating in schools all over Spain. In whispers and rumors, people are talking about a strange website called The Blind Maiden. This legend is almost totally unknown outside of Spain. It was brought to my attention by a Spanish friend of mine. They say that most of the time, the website is offline and you cannot access it, no matter how hard you try. However, according to the rumor, there are 3 rules you must obey in order to access the website. You must be alone. You must turn off all the lights in your house. You must go to the website at exactly midnight on a moonless night. If you satisfy all these conditions, you will apparently be granted access to the Blind Maiden site. Once inside, your eyes will immediately be assailed by a never-ending montage of shocking, screaming faces. Excuse me. Pictures of boys and girls, their faces all twisted in tremendous fear, their mouths frozen in a silent scream. Their eyes are missing. The pictures are displayed quickly, flashing up on screen one after the other, with no explanation. According to the legend, some lines of Spanish text will appear on the screen. Roughly translated, the text reads something like this. This website will take you to a whole new level of horror. A horror that will use all 5 of your senses. You must be very careful not to click on anything by accident. You will be faced with a real experience of absolute horror. Click the accept button to engage actively in the experience. Below the text are 2 buttons, accept and decline. At this point, you'll probably be very curious. You'll probably find yourself tempted to click the accept button. Don't. If you accept the challenge, you will only be taking your life in your hands. Click decline and stay safe. This is what's supposed to happen if you click the button and accept the challenge. To your surprise and horror, you observe on your monitor a sinister silhouette walking towards your own home. You want to wake up. You want this to just be a nightmare. You watch as the specter approaches and enters the same room where you are sitting. You will see, on your monitor, your own back, and you will feel a presence behind you. You will feel a tap on your shoulder. The last thing you see before you die will be the face of the blind maiden, staring mercilessly at you with your horrible eyes. According to what I've been able to research, they say the blind maiden will rip out your eyes and take a snapshot of your face, so that you will forever be a part of the website's picture gallery. Ooh. Oh, that one gave chills down my spine. Like, I'm looking around my shoulders now. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, don't go to the Hellgirl website. Don't go to the Blind Maiden website. Don't do it. Don't do it. Ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Interesting. You have been cursed with sleep paralysis already. Oh, God. I'm trying to find another one that, like, piques my interest here. Ooh. Okay, one called Footsteps, like, speaks to me for some reason. How long is it? That's not too bad. Alright. This is long, so I apologize for that. I've never had to tell this story with enough detail to actually explain it all the way. But it is true, and it happened when I was about 6 years old. Is it good? Good. I meant it was creepypasta. I saw the cursed image and all. Oof. In a quiet room, if you press your ear against a pillow, you can hear your heartbeat. As a kid, the muffled rhythmic beats sounded like soft footsteps on a carpeted floor. So as a kid, almost every night, just as I was about to drift off to sleep, I would hear these footsteps and I would be ripped back to consciousness, terrified. For my entire childhood, I lived with my mother in a fairly nice neighborhood that was in a transitional phase. People of lower economic means were gradually moving in. My mother and I were two of these people. We lived in the kind of house you see being transported in 2 pieces on the interstate, but my mom took good care of it. There were a lot of woods surrounding the neighborhood that I would play in and explore during the day, but at night, as things often do to a kid, they took on a more sinister feeling. This, coupled with the fact that, due to the nature of our house, there was a fairly large crawl space underneath, filled my mind with imaginary monsters and inescapable scenarios which would consume my thoughts when I was awoken by the footsteps. I told my mom about the footsteps. She said that I was just imagining things. I persisted enough that she blasted my ears with water from a turkey baster once just to placate me, since I thought that would help. Of course it didn't. Despite all the creepiness and footsteps, the only weird thing that ever happened was that, every now and again, I would wake up on the bottom bunk despite having gone to sleep on the top. But this wasn't really weird, since I'd sometimes get up to piss or something, or get something to drink. I can remember just going back to sleep on the bottom bunk. I'm an only child, so it didn't matter. This would happen once or twice a week. So waking up on the bottom bunk wasn't too terrifying. But one night, I didn't wake up on the bottom bunk. I had heard the footsteps. It was too far gone to be woken up by them. And when I was awoken, it wasn't from the sound of footsteps or a nightmare, but because I was cold. Really cold. When I opened my eyes, I saw stars. I was in the woods. I sat up immediately and tried to figure out what was going on. I thought I was dreaming, but that didn't seem right, though neither did me being in the woods. There was a deflated pool float right in front of me, one of those ones shaped like a shark. This only added to the surreal feeling, but after a while it seemed like I just wasn't going to wake up because I wasn't asleep. I stood up to orient myself, but I didn't recognize these woods. I play in the woods by my house all the time, so I knew them really well, but if these weren't the same woods, then how could I get out? I took a step and I felt a shooting pain in my foot, which knocked me back to where I had just been laying. I had stepped on a thorn. By the light By the light of the moon, I could see that they were everywhere. I looked at my other foot, but it was fine, and as a matter of fact, so was the rest of me. I didn't have another scratch on me, and I wasn't even that dirty. I cried for a little bit and then stood back up. I didn't know which way to go, so I just picked a direction. I resisted the urge to call out, since I wasn't sure I wanted to be found by who or what might be out there. I walked for what seems like hours. I tried to walk in a straight line, tried to course-correct what I had to take detours, but I was a kid and I was afraid. There weren't any howls or screams, and only once did I hear any noise that scared me. It sounded like a crying baby. I think now that it was just a cat, but I panicked. I ran veering in different directions to avoid big thicks of bushes and collapsed trees, and I was paying close attention to where I stepped because by that point my feet were in pretty bad shape. I paid too much attention to where I was stepping and not enough to where those steps were leading, because not long after hearing the cry, I saw something that filled me with a kind of despair I haven't experienced since. It was the pool float. I was only 10 feet from where I had woken up. This wasn't magic or some supernatural space bending. I was lost. Up until that moment, I had thought about getting out of the woods. I thought more about getting out of the woods than how I got in, but being back at the beginning caused my mind to spin. I wasn't even sure that these were my woods. I had only been hoping that they were. Had I run in a huge circle around that spot, or did I just get turned around and started making my way back? How was I going to get out? At the time, I thought the North Star was just the brightest star, and so I looked and found the brightest one and followed it. Eventually things started to look more familiar. When I saw the ditch, a dirt ditch my friends and I would have dirt-clawed boars in, I knew I had made it out. By that point I was walking really slowly because my feet hurt so much, but I was so happy to be so close to home that I broke into a light jog. When I actually saw the roof of my house over a neighboring lower-set house, I let out a light sob and ran faster. I had no idea what I could... Oh, hold on a minute. I just wanted to be home. I had already decided that I wouldn't say anything because I had no idea what I could possibly say. I would get back in the house somehow, clean up, and get in bed. My heart sunk as I rounded the corner, and my house came fully into view. Every light in the house was on. I knew my mom was up, and I knew I would have to explain, or try to explain where I had been, and I couldn't even figure out where to start. My run became a jog, which became a walk. I saw her silhouette through the blinds, and although I was worried about how to explain things to her, that didn't matter to me at that point. I walked up the couple steps to the porch, put my hand on the doorknob, and turned. Right before I pushed it open, two arms wrapped around me and pulled me back. I screamed as loud as I could, "Mom, help me, please, Mom!" The feeling of being so close to being safe and then being physically pulled away from it filled me with the kind of dread that is, even after all these years, indescribable. The door had been torn... What? Oh, the door I had been torn away from opened, and a flash of hope shot through my heart. But it wasn't my mom. What? It was a man, and he was enormous. I thrashed around and kicked at the shins of the person holding me while also trying to get away from the person who had just come out of the house. I was scared, but I was furious. "Let me go. Where is she? Where is my mom? What did you do to her?" As my throat stung from screaming and I was drawing in another breath, I became aware of a sound that had been present for longer than I had perceived it. "Honey, please calm down. I've got you." It sounded like my mom. The arms loosened and set me down, and as the man approached me, what? And as I don't even know how Okay. And as a man approached me, blocked out the porch light with his head, I noticed his closed. He was a cop. I turned to face the voice behind me and saw that it really was my mom. Everything was okay. I began to cry, and the three of us went inside. I'm so glad you're home, sweetie. I was worried I'd never see you again. By that point, she was crying too. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I just wanted to come home. I'm sorry. It's okay, just don't ever do that again. I'm not sure me or my shins could take it. A little laughter broke through my sobs, and I smiled a bit. Well, I'm sorry for kicking you, but why'd you have to grab me like that? I was just afraid that you'd run away again. I was confused. What do you mean? We found your note on your pillow, she said, and pointed at a piece of paper that the police officer was sliding across the table. I picked up the note and read it. It was a running away letter. It said that I was unhappy and never wanted to see her or any of my friends again. The police officer exchanged a few words with my mom on the porch while I stared at the letter. I don't remember writing a letter. I didn't remember anything about any of this. But even if I sometimes went to the bathroom at night and didn't remember, or even if I could have gone into the woods on my own, even if all that could have been true, the only thing I knew at that point was, this isn't how you spell my name. I didn't write this letter. So who wrote the letter? Interesting. He said he was hearing footsteps around the house and around the woods and stuff. And apparently someone wrote a letter, but it wasn't him. And is that really his mom? And is that really the police officer? Or are they just monsters in disguise? It's a good question. Or a man lived in the attic. That story's been told quite a few many times now. Oh, here's another one called The Kill Switch, which is probably linked to the Kagome story. Oh, this is about a game. Okay, I'm interested. Hi, Bryce. How are you doing? We're reading all the spooky stories today. So, nothing but chill, spooky vibes. Oh, by the way, guys, I have a lot of redeems and stuff you guys can redeem during this. I have a spooky, jump scare one, too. And for, tea time and for snacks, I have Halloween candy and, I have apple cider to drink. And you can also donate to the Classic Game Night Challenge. Thank you, Dylan. That's something I was probably going to say later. Alright, Kill Switch. Press return to start game. Copyright 1989 Carvinico? 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 Sure? Okay. Thank you, thank you. I'm hoping we got about another month before that challenge will go down, so you guys have some time. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to play yet as a classic game challenge, but I'll probably put up a poll later so you guys can choose once that actually gets complete. But yeah, if you know of a creepypasta, I'll see if it's on this list, and if not, I can just read it from another website. I'm reading these off of an app that I found on my computer, so that way they come up a lot cleaner for you guys so you can see. Alright, Kill Switch. In the spring of 1989, the Carvina sounds good. The Carvina Corporation released a curious game whose dissemination among American students that fall was swift and furious, though its popularity was ultimately short-lived. The game was Kill Switch. On the surface, it was a variant on the mystery or horror survival game, a precursor to the Myst and Silent Hill franchises. Ooh. Silent Hill, you say? Ooh. I've never played the Myst. I've watched the Mist series on Netflix. The narrative showed the complexity for which Carvina was known through the graphics were monochrome, vague gray and white shapes against a black background. Slow, MIDI versions of Czech folk songs play throughout. Players could choose between two avatars, an invisible demon named Gast, or a visible human woman, Porto. Play as Gast was considerably more difficult due to his total invisibility, and players were highly liable to restart the game as Porto after the first level, in which it was impossible to gauge jumps or aim. However, Gast was clearly the more powerful character. He had fire breath and a cool steam attack. A cold steam attack. I'm sorry, I cannot talk today. But as it was about the skill level of most players to keep track of where a fire-breathing, poison-dispensing invisible imp was on their screens, once the fire and steam had run out, Porto became more or less the default. Oh, I can't click on that. Okay. Oh, I just wanted to see if I could. Porto's senior ability was seemingly random growth. She expanded and contracted in size throughout the game. A Kansas engineering grad claimed to have figured out the pattern involved for reasons which will become obvious. His work was lost. Porto awakens in the dark with wounds in her elbows, confused. Seeking a way out, she ascends through the levels of a coal mine in which it is slowly revealed she was once an employee, investigating its collapse and beset on all sides by demons similar to Gast, as well as dead foremen, coal golems, and demonic inspectors from the Solvitic Corporation, whose boxy bodies were clothed in red, the only color in the game. The environment, though primitive, becomes generally uncanny as play progresses. There are no bosses in any real sense. Porto must simply move physically through tunnels to reach subsequent levels, while her size varies wildly through inner level spaces. The story then emerges through Porto's discovery of magnetic tapes, files, mutilated factory workers who were once her friends, and deciphering an impressively complex code inscribed on a series of Iron Axe players must collect. This portion of the game was ultimately laughably complex and defeated many players until Porto 881 posted the cipher to a Columbia BBS. Attempt to contact this player has been unsuccessful, and the username is no longer in use on any known surface. Is that the foreman under pressure to increase the coal production began to falsify reports of malfunctions and worker malfeasance in order to, oh my god, these big words, in order to excuse low output, which incited a Sovitic inspection. They need to work on their punctuation. That sentence was way too long. Officials were dispatched, one for each miner, and an extraordinary story of torture unfolds, with fuzzy and indistinct graphics of red-coated men standing over workers, inserting small knives into their joints whenever production slowed. Ooh. Admittedly, this is not a very subtle critique of Soviet-era industrial tactics, as the town of Carvina itself was devastated by the departure of the coal industry. More than one thesis has interpreted Killswitch as a political screed. After solving the axe code, Porto finds and assembles a tape recorder, on which a male voice tells her that the fires of the earth had risen up in their defense, and flowed into the hearts of the decrepit. Pre-revolution equipment they used awakened them to avenge the workers. It is generally assumed that the fires of the earth are demons like Gast, coal fumes and gassy bodies, inhabiting the old machines. The machines themselves are so big that the graphics elect to only show 2 or 3 gear teeth on a conveyor belt rather than the entire apparatus. The machines drove the inspectors mad, and they disappeared into caverns with their knives, only to emerge to plague Porto, of course. The workers were often crushed and mangled in the onslaught of machines, who were neither graceful nor discriminating. Porto herself was knocked into a deep chasm by a grief-stricken engine, with her fluctuating size. If it is real and not imagined, it's implied to be the result of poisonous fumes inhaled there. What follows is the most cryptic and intuitive part of the game. There is no logical reason to proceed in the correct way, and again it was Porto 881 who came to the rescue of the fledgling Killswitch community. In the chamber behind the tape recorder is a great furnace where coal was once rendered into coke. There are no clues as to what she is intended to do in this room. Players attempted nearly everything, from emulating herself to continuing to process coal as if the machines had never risen up. Porto 881 hit up the solution and posted it to Columbia boards. Lady in Black. I don't see it on my list, but that sounds interesting. If Porto ingests the raw coke, she will find her body under control and can go on to fight her way out of the final levels of the mine, which are impassable in her giant state. Clutching the tape containing this extraordinary story. However, as she crawls through the final tunnel to emerge above ground, the screen goes suddenly white. Kill switch, by design, deletes itself upon player completion of the game. It is not recoverable by any means. All trace of it is removed from the user's computer. The game cannot be copied. For all intents and purposes, it exists only for those playing it, and then ceases to be entirely. One cannot replay it, unlocking further secrets or narrative pathways. One cannot allow another to play it, and perhaps most importantly, it is impossible to experience the game all the way to the end, as both Porto and Gast. Predictably, player outcry was enormous. Several routes to solve the problem were pursued with no real efficiency. The first and most common was to simply buy more copies of the game, but Carvina Recourse Corp released only 5,000 copies and refused to press further editions. The following is an excerpt from their May 1990 press release. Killswitch was designed to be a unique playing experience, like reality, and is unrepeatable, unretrievable, and illogical. One might even say ineffable. Death is final. Death is complete. The faces of Porto and her beloved Gast are as unknowable as our own. It is the desire of the Carvina Corporation that this be so we ask our customers to respect that desire. Rest assured, Carvina will continue to provide the highest quality of games to the West. That Killswitch is merely one amongst our many wonders. So it's got Unis Honest vibes here. This did not have the intended effect. The word beloved piqued the interest of committed, even obsessive players, as Gast is not present in any portion of Porto's narrative. A rush to find the remaining copies of the game ensued, with the intent of playing as Gast and discovering the meaning of Carvina's cryptic word. The most popular theory was that Gast would at some point become the fumes inhaled by Porto, changing her size and beginning her adventure. Some thought this was wishful thinking, that if only Gast's early levels were passable, one would somehow be able to play as both simultaneously. However, by the time no further copies appeared to be available in retail outlets, players who had not yet completed the game attempted Gast levels frequently, but the difficulty of actually playing this enigmatic avatar persisted, and no player has ever claimed to have finished the game as Gast. One by one, the lure of Porto's lost, unearthly world drew them back to her, and one by one they were compelled toward the finality of the vast white screen. To find any copy usable today is an almost unfathomably rare occurrence. A still shrink-wrapped copy was sold at auction in 2005 for $733,000 to Yamamoto Ryuichi of Tokyo. It is entirely possible that Yamamoto is the last remaining copy of the game. Knowing this, Yamamoto had intended to open his way to all enthusiasts, filming and uploading his progress. However, to date, the only film which has surfaced is a 1-minute and 45-second clip of a Havered Yamamoto at his computer, the avatar choice screen visible on his right shoulder. Yamamoto is crying. Huh. Why is he crying? Why he crying? Sad. Sad girl hours. Oh. Why is my thing not working anymore? Hold on. Oh, it's weird. Sorry, for some reason it didn't scroll down the rest of the way. Ah, shoot. There you go. There's the rest of the story. I don't know why it didn't show the rest of it, but interesting. Okay. Lady in Black. I don't have that on my list, I don't think. Let me search it and see if it's... No. Is it a creepypasta? Let me see if I can find it. I'll probably find it on my phone and read it out loud, but you all will have to pay attention. Ooh. Interesting. Okay, I think I found it. Yeah, it is. I just found it. Oh, okay. I will read it out loud on my phone, but I won't have it on the screen, so you guys have to, like, really, really listen in and pay attention. But first, I'm gonna hydrate with apple cider, because that's very hydrating, apparently. Talking a lot makes me really, really thirsty. Okay. The Lady in Black. This is the nightmare that has plagued me for 4 years now. A few years ago I had a dream that I was at my father's house visiting. My father, brother, and I were going outside to look at my car. We were fixing it up at the time. Something was off. I saw a figure in the dark behind some trees, shuffling. I thought it was a dog at first, till it stood up. It was much too big, about 6 to 7 feet, to be a dog. When I tried to get a better look, it crouched down and ran behind the house. I tried to put it out of my mind. We walked closer to the car, and I heard rustling by the tree again. I looked at my dad to see if he heard anything. It didn't look like he did, but he started to walk away with my brother. I heard the noise louder, and I started to run towards my brother and father. I looked behind me to a creature that was black and bloody, wearing a long black dress. It had long, sharp teeth and claws with white glowing eyes, and it was screaming at me so loud that my ears were hurting. I tried to grab my brother's arm, but my hand phased through him, and he and my father looked normal as the creature screamed at me. I fell on the ground, trying to get away, but it caught up with me, wrapping its hands around my neck. I felt the claws dig into the back of my neck. As I cried, it continued choking me and screaming for what felt like forever, but was probably about 30 seconds. Just as I felt my lungs start to fill up with blood, I woke up. I couldn't move for about 10 minutes. I was frozen in fear in my bed, tears running down my face. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. I could barely breathe. Every now and again I see her again in my dreams, watching, waiting. Ooh, that's interesting. So was it a dream? Or was it? Dun dun dun. Interesting. Okay, not a bad story. Alright, the next one I want to draw your attention to is Kisaragi Station. What is this? Huh. It's like a board. A call for help on 2chan's occult board. Partway through, the questioner changes her idea to Hasumi, but it's easy to tell which Anon she is. Anon is behind you. This might be my imagination, but can I get some help here? Sure, go ahead. What's wrong? A little while ago I got on a train. It's part of a certain privately run train line, but there's something strange about it. Uh-huh. I use this train all the time to get to and from work. But it's been 20 minutes since we made a stop. Usually it stops about every 5 minutes, maybe 7 to 8 tops, but it's been forever since the last stop. There are 5 other passengers, and they're all asleep. You still haven't gotten off this train, right? Did you mistake a limited express for a train that stops at all the stations? Are you on an express train? It is possible that, like some of you have mentioned, I got on the wrong train. I will wait a little longer to see what happens. If anything else strange happens, I will ask here for help. Why don't you go to the end of the car and ask the conductor what is going on? If the driver changes, you'll be in trouble. Go talk to the conductor. I still doesn't seem to be stopping. I'm gonna go ask them. There are blinds or something covering the windows to the conductor's room. I don't see the conductor or the driver. The train line is in Shizuoka Prefecture. How about you try knocking on the window? There's Hasmi. Okay, I knocked on the window, but there was no reply. Can you see outside the windows? You know, to see station names you might be going by. We passed through a tunnel and the speed has since decreased a little bit, but the train doesn't go through any tunnel. The train line starts at Shin Hamamatsu Station. It seems like it stopped at a station. You aren't getting off, are you? We're stopped at Kisaragi Station. Should I get off? I've never seen or heard of this station before. Definitely get off. Stay on until the last station. It's probably left by now. What time did you get on the train? I got off the train. It's an unnamed station. I think the train left at 11:40. I tried searching for Kisaragi Station, but I couldn't find anything on it, and her train was running for an hour. Well, that's fucked up. Nothing comes up when you look up Kisaragi Station. I want to take the return train, but I can't find a schedule posted anywhere. The train is still stopped, so I think getting back on might be safer. And it left as I was writing a reply. Is there a building nearby where people are? It's cold outside, so please try to stay warm. I'm going to leave the station and try to catch a taxi. Thank you. That's good. Be careful. An unmanned station, I was right, that the last train has already departed from. I doubt taxis are going to be driving anywhere nearby. And Hasmi has become a resident of another dimension. There aren't any taxis or anything to speak of? What should I do? Go find a station worker or a nearby police station. What about calling 110? Yeah, it's like 911 over in Japan. Have you tried calling for a taxi? You need to go to the Popos already. If there's a payphone nearby, look for a taxi company in the phone book and call them. I called home and asked them to come pick me up, but my parents don't know where Kisaragi Station is. They said they would look for it on a map and then pick me up, but I'm really scared. What did the other passengers do? Are you the only one who got off? I looked for it online too, but Kisaragi Station has 0 results. You aren't near Shin Hamamatsu, right? I'm going to look it up on Yahoo. I looked for a payphone, but there isn't one. Nobody else got off, so I'm all alone right now. The station is definitely Kisaragi Station. Sometimes payphones are a little further away from the station. What about leaving the station? I was doing some looking around, and I found something that might be relevant. If you write the word demon in kanji, one of its uncommon readings is Kisaragi. Demon Station? Creepy. Do you play a lot of video games? I've heard of a game that sounds quite like this. Tell us the stations that come before and after Kisaragi. Don't tell us they aren't posted anywhere. What game? The name of the other stations aren't written anywhere. Walk along the tracks to go home. If you run after it, you might be able to find the train somewhere. If you're near a station, they have to be people living nearby. That's a good point. I was panicking, so I didn't think of that. I'm going to walk along the tracks and wait for my parents to call me back. I tried finding where I am on my phone, and it either glitches and can't find my point or gives an error message. I want to go home now. Regardless of whether or not this is a joke, we need to come together to find a solution to this. There isn't really anything nearby. I see grassy fields and mountains, and that's it. I think that if I really follow the tracks, I should be able to get back. Thank you. You can think I'm lying if you want, but I'm coming back if I need help. Good. Take care of yourself. Good. Just be careful so your battery doesn't die. That's your lifeline for the time being. Don't go the wrong direction, and be careful when you go into the tunnel. Would you be able to get a signal to a place where nothing was? I think you should stay near the station, but it's a cold night. She's at the station alone. To make matters worse, the lights must go off soon. She'll be left in complete darkness. The tracks are an even darker trap. There's a tunnel coming up, right? It might be safer to wait at the station till morning. This is creepy. My dad called me. He said that no matter what he tried, he couldn't find the station. He told me to call the cops. Some of you might disagree with my decision, but I'm going to call them for help. I think you should wait until morning to do anything. Wait by herself all night in a place she doesn't know? That is that creepy? Can she go off through the tunnel by herself at night? On a line she doesn't know that is that creepy? Well then, can you walk all night in the cold on a road you don't know? I called 110 and desperately tried to explain what is going on, but in the end they got mad and thought I was pranking them. I got scared and apologized to them. What are you apologizing for? You should just give up for the time being and wait for the first train in the morning. What does the area around the station look like? Is there anything there? I can hear what sounds like a taiko drum being pounded far away. Sometimes a bell is added to the drumming. I don't know what to do anymore. Hasumi, go back to the station. If you get lost, it's best to go back to where you started. It started. Taiko and bells? Ring ring, bang bang. Maybe there's a festival going on. You might think I'm lying, but I'm scared I can't look behind me. I want to go back to the station, but I can't turn around. Run, and do not turn back. You cannot go back to the station. You'll be taken away. Run to the tunnel, you should be close to it. I heard someone yelling and out behind me just now. Hey, it's dangerous to walk on the tracks, so don't do it, they said. I thought it might have been a station worker, so I looked behind me and there was a one-legged man standing there about 10 meters away. I don't know how, but he suddenly disappeared. I can't handle any more of this. That's why you don't turn around. Run. Calm down, and don't listen to Big Brother, okay? Try going to the sound of the drumming. Somebody has to be banging on the taiko. Where do you plan on bringing Hasumin? That's not what I meant. Hasumi is going to be taken away if this keeps up. That's why I think that if she can go back, she should do it now. How could you tell it was an old man just by the way he was walking? Because she said it was a one-legged man. I bet he lost his leg in a deadly accident on the tracks. I can't walk anymore. I can't run. The taiko sound seems to be a little closer than it was before. Wait until dawn. You won't have anything to be scared of once the sun comes up. You should have gotten back on the train. I'm still alive, but I'm hurt. I fell down and I'm bleeding, and I broke one of my high heels. I don't want to die yet. I would have taken those high heels off a long time ago. Oh no! I turned off my sound alerts! I'm so sorry! There it is. Sorry. Digo. It doesn't seem like things would get any better if you stayed put away. I think if you get past the tunnel, you'll be fine. Please let us know when you get to the other side and get help from someone. I called home. My dad called the cops. The sound keeps getting closer and closer. Just pray it isn't a train coming closer. Though it'll probably be too late if that were the case. I somehow made it to the tunnel. It's called Isanuki Tunnel. The sound is still getting louder. So I'm going to need to gather my courage to get through to the end of the tunnel. I'll post as soon as I get to the end. Good luck. This is it. It's too late for the train, or to go back. You can't look back. Nobody is going to chase you. The sounds are nothing but an illusion based on things you've heard before. Run to the end of the tunnel. If you stop, all you'll be able to do is stay at this strange world while you bitch and moan about it. Ouch! I got out of the tunnel. Somebody is standing ahead of me. I got out, just like you guys said I could. Thank you so much. I'm crying so much right now that you might mistake me for a monster if you saw my face. Wait, Hasumi, don't leave us. I said stop, it's too dangerous. Why would someone be standing there at a time like this? It has to be some sort of demon. I'm sorry for worrying you. A nice man is driving me to the nearest station. It looks like there's a business hotel nearby. Thank you, everybody. Hasumi, answer my question. Where are you? Could you ask that nice man where it is you're driving? Are you sure he's a good person? He might be creepier than the alternative. There's that too. Anyway, where are you? He's dangerous. Why would he be near the tracks this late at night? He has to be there to throw out a body or something, and he just happened to meet you as a bonus? Get away from him. I asked him, and he said we're in Hina, but I don't think that's possible. Hasumi, get out of the car. I'm sorry, Kasumi, where is Hina? How strange. A young woman is walking along the tracks in the middle of the night, and some charlatan comes away to give her a ride? What the hell is he doing there? We're heading towards the mountains. I don't think there's anywhere a car could really go up here. And he stopped talking completely. Even charlatans wouldn't be out this late. Is he not talking because you're staring at your cell phone the whole time? Oh shit, Hasumi, did you get a hold of your parents to have them get you some help after you left the tunnel? Hasumi, call the police. Those might be your last words. My battery is about to die. Things are looking kind of strange, so I think I'm going to try to escape. He's been mumbling gibberish for himself for a while. Just in case I need my phone later. This is going to be my last post. After that, Hasumi was never seen again. What? But what happened? What happened to her? I wanna know. I wanna know. Yeah, the usernames are really weird. I tried to just ignore most of them, just realizing that they're all just different usernames, but that's so weird. That's so weird. Okay, let me find another one. Ooh. Midnight Game. That sounds cool. Or Masterpiece. Masterpiece or Midnight Game? Which M? Which M? I could do both. I could do both. How about I just do both? Let's start with Masterpiece. I'm gonna lift it up just a little so you can see the picture. Haha. And then I'm gonna drag it back down because it seems like it cuts off the end when I do that. Okay. Excuse me, oh my gosh, my digestion today. Jesus. Alright, no worries, no worries. I was gonna choose between Masterpiece and Midnight Game, but I think I'm just gonna do both. If you all had a personal preference, I was gonna let you choose which one I read first, but... Masterpiece. I've been lying down for hours now. It's 5:35 a.m. There's not much I can do. You know what the worst part about my situation is? I'm in the same room as my parents. They keep looking at me, and I can't help but look back and try not to cry or scream. Their eyes are focused on me, and their mouths are wide open. There's a long scent of blood, and I feel paralyzed with fear. Here's the thing. The second I make any hint that I'm not asleep anymore, I'm completely fucked. I will die, and there's nobody around to save me. I've been trying to think of a way out, but the only idea I have is to rush to the front door and scream for help, hoping any neighbors hear me. It's risky, but if I stay here, I'll surely die. He's waiting for me to wake up and see his masterpiece. You're probably wondering what's going on. I do tend to get ahead of myself sometimes. About 3 hours ago, I heard screaming from the other side of the house. I got up and went to check on the noise before realizing I had to use the restroom. Instead of doing the smart thing and investigating, I used the bathroom first. I could have got myself killed right then for my stupid actions. I did my business and took a peek outside the bathroom. There was blood on the carpet. I got very worried and ran back to my room, hiding under the sheets like the pussy I was. I tried to convince myself to go back to sleep, that it was just some really vivid dream or something. But I heard my bedroom door open. Like the terrified child I was. I peeked out from under my blankets to see what was going on. I could see something dragging my dead parents into the room. It was not human, I can tell you that. It was hairless, with no eyes or clothing. It walked like a caveman, with its back slouched as it dragged my parents. But this thing was much smarter than any caveman. It was aware of what it was doing. It propped my dad up on the edge of my bed, and made him face me. It then sat my mother down in the chair and positioned her towards me as well. It then started rubbing its hands on the wall, staining them with blood, and then drew a circle with the devil's pentagram in it. This thing had made what it would probably call a masterpiece. To finish it off, it scribbled a message into the wall that I could not read in the darkness. It then positioned itself under my bed, waiting to strike. The scariest thing now is my eyes have adjusted to the darkness since then, and I can read the message on the wall. I don't want to look at it because it's terrifying to think about, but I feel I need to see before I'm killed. I peek at the creature's masterpiece. I know you're awake. Ooh. Oh. Oh. That was a good one. Oh. I got chills again. That was a good one. I like that one. Alright. Midnight Game is the next one. Yeah, y'all, I'm probably not sleeping tonight. Can we just have a cuddle party after all this? Because, damn. Alright, Midnight Game. Yeah, that's a super good one. I like that one. Alright, Midnight Game. The Midnight Game is an old pagan ritual, used mainly as punishment for those who have broken the laws of the pagan religion in question. While it was mainly used as a scare tactic to not disobey the gods, there is still a very existent chance of death to those who play the Midnight Game. There is an even higher chance of permanent mental scarring. It is highly recommended that you do not play the Midnight Game. However, for those few thrill seekers searching for a rush, or for those delving into obscure occult rituals, there are simple instructions on how to play. Do so at your own risk. I have played this game. People have died. Do not play this game. He will always be watching. It must be exactly 12 a.m. when you begin performing the ritual, otherwise it will not work. Hi, Alice! Welcome, welcome! I'm so happy we have the demon in our midst. The demon. Materials. You will need a candle, a piece of paper, a writing implement, matches or a lighter, a salt, a wooden door, and at least one drop of your own blood. At least one drop. If you are playing with multiple people, they would need their own aforementioned materials, and they will have to perform the steps below accordingly. Oh, my head is itchy. Yeah. Okay. Write your full name, first, middle, and last on a piece of paper. Put at least one drop of blood on the paper. Allow it to soak into the paper. Turn off all the lights into the place you are doing this. Go to your wooden door, place the paper with your name on it in front of the door. Now take out the candle and light it. Place it on top of the paper. Knock on the door 20 times. The hour must be 12 a.m. upon the final knock. Then open the door, blow out the candle, and close the door. You have just allowed the Midnight Man to enter your house. Ooh. And this is where I'd be like, you stupid human, why did you do that? Immediately relight your candle. This is where the game begins. You must now lurk around your now completely dark house when the lit candle is in your hand. Your goal is to avoid the Midnight Man at all costs until 3:33 a.m. Should your candle ever go out, that means the Midnight Man is near you. You must relight your candle in the next 10 seconds. If you are not successful in doing this, you must then immediately surround yourself with a circle of salt. If you are unsuccessful in both of your actions, the Midnight Man will create a hallucination of your greatest fear and rip out your organs, one by one. You will feel it, but you will be unable to react. If you are successful in creating the circle of salt, you must remain in there until 3:33 a.m. If you are successful in relighting your candle, you must proceed with the game. You must continue to 3:33 a.m. without being attacked by the Midnight Man or being trapped inside the circle of salt to win the Midnight Game. Wait, what? Without being attacked by the Midnight Man or being trapped inside the circle of salt to win the Midnight Game. The Midnight Man will leave your house at 3:33 a.m. and you will be safe to proceed with your morning. Indications that you are near the Midnight Man will include sudden drop in temperature, seeing a pure black humanoid figure through the darkness, hearing very soft whispering coming from an indiscernible source. If you experience any of these, it is advised that you leave the area to avoid the Midnight Man. Do not turn any of the lights on during the Midnight Game. Do not use a flashlight during the Midnight Game. Do not go to sleep during the Midnight Game. Do not attempt to use another person's blood on your name. Do not use a lighter as a substitute for a candle. It will not work. And definitely do not attempt to provoke the Midnight Man in any way. Even when the game is over, he will always be watching you. Good luck. You are going to need it. I would say so. That was pretty interesting. It's one of those things, it's like, why would people ever try to mess with these? Like, don't Don't do it. Don't do it, you stupid humans. Don't do it. Me pulling up to the Midnight Man with an AK. I don't even know if guns would work, yo. He's like a spirit or something. Yeah, I would actually be interested in playing that game. I feel like it sounds familiar. Is it called Midnight Game or Midnight Man or something? It's probably on like Itch.io or something. Interesting. They've made a lot of games based off creepypastas. Like, you know, Slender Man and stuff. AK with blessed bullets? I mean, maybe. Alright, trying to find another one. If y'all have any other suggestions, please shout them out, and I will take them into consideration. This one sounds interesting. The King Come Down. Here, let me move it again so you all can see the picture. Wachow. Okay. Oh, sorry. Whoop, whoop. I brought my screen way too far. It's about 3 weeks ago. I was on Google looking for some funny sites to look at when I found my way to an image board. Everyone there spoke in extremely cryptic nonsense. They said things like, "Heil, I saw them tonight. Holding hands, we are up in high 999240028. The King Come Down." That one phrase, "the King Come Down," was used frequently. At first I thought it was a spam because of the number of strings that preceded it, but its use was way too frequent and erratic to be spam. There would be typos, and in addition, the numbers didn't appear to be random. In the end, I decided I'd see what was going on with the site. I posted in what appeared to be a random board. Much like /B, there were no discernible themes about the images and posts. I said, "Hello, I'm new and I was looking to start a funny thread," and asked people to post their funniest pictures. That was when it started. I remember the first reply very clearly. It said, "Good to see you joined the help." From there, it only got weirder. I was told to ignore the graphs. I assumed this was some sort of in-joke. After this, people post seemingly random numbers and letters, as well as characters from different languages. I had no idea what was going on when that phrase popped up again. Numbers followed by the King Come Down. If I played the Midnight Game, I would do it. I would do it there so we could scare him instead of the opposite. If it would work, I don't know. Following that, my power cut off. It was complete blackout. It freaked me out, but I went ahead and checked the fuses. The switches had just flipped. I flipped them back and returned to my PC. On the screen was the video of a young boy. He was Caucasian and looked to be no older than 10 years. I sat down, or I'm assuming it means sit down. I sat down, creeped out, but feeling curious. Strangely, the boy smiled and appeared to speak. I couldn't hear anything, so I turned up the volume on my speakers. I could only just hear what he was saying, so I turned up the volume to max. It was still only a faint whisper. His lips moved slowly. I pushed my ear closer to try to figure out what he said, but he suddenly shouted. It was a booming and terrifying voice, screaming at me like a demonic god. Then the image changed. The boy was crying, his eyes bleeding heavily as wide arms tore the skin from his face. The power cut out again. Again, it was the fuses. When I got the power back, everything was normal. My PC booted normally and nothing creepy happened with it. No videos of kids whispering or anything. That's when I started receiving the emails. They were extremely cryptic and filled with random numbers, much like that of the image board posts. I got an email that was, surprisingly, in regular English. It said, just pass it on, just fucking pass it on. I didn't know what it meant. Hold on. Where was I at? Okay, there it is. I was trying to make sure I didn't... Hanara! Oh my gosh! I haven't seen you in my streams in forever. How are you? Where are my huggy emotes? Give them to me right now. Give me the huggies! I give you all this squeeze! You are forever beheld in the wolfy mama's arms, and you shall never, never be harmed. Hi! You guys, this is Hanara. She actually did my model art. She didn't do the rigging. Oh, that was Maria, but she did the model art, so... Everyone go support her and say hi. She did such a good job. Yes, I love it so much. You guys did a great work on it. I'm so happy with it. And I'm glad you get to see your work in action. It's so, like, satisfying. I know, like, when people, when I write stuff for people, they are always, like, it's always just super, super nice to see that they, like, are making use or, like, really like the stuff that you make them, you know? I'm immune to the creepypasta as it's 1st of November in my country. Oh, rip. I'm sorry, bro. It's 7 p.m. here, so yes, it is very satisfying. I still got 5 hours. I won't be streaming for that long, but I still got 5 hours before midnight, so... Well, I don't know, guys. You want to go for 7 more hours? I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it that long. I could try. My voice might not be able to take it, though. I got up to get a drink and froze in fear. From my ceiling hung a man, his body swinging gently. On my wall, written in dry blood, were the words, "The king come down." I blinked and the sight was gone. For weeks, this continued. I went back to the image board. I was sure I was going out of my mind. I was just about ready to commit myself to a fucking asylum when I read a post in coherent English that sounded something like "Pass on the king, pass on the king." The thread 404'd before I could even get to it. I went to make a new thread, and when I began typing, the words in my mind were not what appeared in the box. My fingers typed words by their own volition. I typed 2 things. And 4918484, the king come down. Then somehow, I realized I was passing it on. The crazy hallucination stopped. I was good. I learned how to be safe. I'm sorry. 449-19174. The king come down. Huh. Huh. Interesting. Interesting. Ooh, that's a cool one. I've read that one before. If you guys, I am actually reading creepypastas, so if you guys have any specific creepypastas that you like and you want me to read, I will definitely try my best to read them out loud for you. If I don't have them on this app, I'm reading an app that I got on my PC that's free, so I'm not sure, if all of them are gonna be on here. But, if they're not on here, then I can look them up on Google and, read them off the creepypasta website. So you just won't have the text on screen, but I can totally do that if you guys have any that you like. So, without further ado, I am actually going to look at the Rake, because I've never seen the lore about the Rake, even though he's a very common supernatural creature. That's what he looks like. He's a creepy boy. He's a very popular creepypasta. Okay. During the summer of 2003, events in the northeastern United States involving a strange human-like creature sparked brief local media interest before an apparent blackout was enacted. Little or no information was left intact, as most online and written accounts of the creature were mysteriously destroyed. Primarily focused in rural New York State, and once found in Idaho. Self-proclaimed witnesses told stories of their encounters with a creature of unknown origin. Emotions ranged from extremely traumatic levels of fright and discomfort to an almost childlike sense of playfulness and curiosity. While their published versions are no longer on record, the memories remain powerful. Several of the involved parties began looking for an answer that year. In early 2006, the collaboration had accumulated nearly 24 documents dating between the 12th century and present day, spanning 4 continents. In almost all cases, the stories were identical. I've been in contact with a member of this group and was able to get some excerpts from their upcoming book. A Suicide Note, 1964. As I prepared to take my life, I felt it necessary to assuage my guilt or pain I had induced through this act. It is not the fault of anyone other than him, for once I awoke and felt his presence, and once I awoke and saw his form. Once again I awoke and heard his voice, and looked into his eyes. I cannot sleep without fear of what I might awake next to experience. I cannot ever wake. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box were 2 empty envelopes addressed to William and Rose, and 1 loose personal letter with no envelope. Dearest Lenny, I have prayed for you. He spoke your name. A journal entry translated from Spanish, 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow, black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand. I will not sleep. His voice. Unintelligible text. A Mariner's Letter, 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not return here again at the request of the Rake. From a Witness, 2006. 3 years ago, I had just returned from a trip from Niagara Falls with my family for the 4th of July. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my husband and I put the kids right to bed and called it a night. At about 4 a.m. I woke up thinking my husband had gotten up to use the restroom. I used the moment to steal back the sheets, only to wake him in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he got out of bed. When he turned to face me, he gasped out and pulled his feet up from the end of the bed so quickly his knee almost knocked me out of bed. He then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for half a second, I was able to see what would cause the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, there was what appeared to be a naked man, or a large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned as to its condition. At this point, I was somewhat under the assumption that we were supposed to help him. Ooh, ew, 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 ew. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Or so help me. Ew, that thing's gross. My husband was peering over his arm and knee, tucked into the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, the creature scrambled across the side of the bed and then crawled quickly in a flailing sort of motion right along the bed until it was less than a foot from my husband's face. Oh, Jesus! The creature was completely silent for about 30 seconds, or probably closer to 5. It just seemed like a while, just looking at my husband. The The creature then placed its hand on his knee and ran into the hallway, leading to the kids' rooms. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop him before he hurt my children. When I got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough to see it crouching and hunched over about 20 feet away. Oh God. He turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood. I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter Clara. The creature ran down the stairs. The creature ran down the stairs while my husband and I rushed to help our daughter. She was very badly injured and spoke only once more in her short life. She said, "He is the rake." My husband drove his car into a lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. They did not survive. Being a small town, news got around pretty quickly. The police were helpful at first, and the local newspaper took a lot of interest as well. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' place. After we decided to return home, I began looking for answers myself. I eventually located a man in the next town over who had a similar story. We got in contact and began talking about our experiences. He knew of 2 other people in New York who had seen the creature we now refer to as the rake. Oh, I'm silly. Alice, can you shout out Hanara, please? I don't know why I didn't think to already do that. For her lovely model arts that make this possible. It took the 4 of us about 2 solid years of hunting on the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what we believed to be accounts of the rake. None of them gave away any details, history, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving the creature in its first 3 pages and never mentioned it again. A ship's log explained nothing of the encounter, saying only that they were told to leave by the rake. That was the last entry in the log. There were, however, many instances where the creature's visit was one of a series of visits with the same person. Multiple people also mentioned being spoken to, my daughter included. This led us to wonder if the rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and I left it running all night, every night for 2 weeks. I would tediously scan through the sounds of me rolling around in my bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the 2nd week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep while blurring through the recording at 8 times the normal speed. This still took almost an hour every day. On the first day of the 3rd week, I thought I heard something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to transcribe it. I haven't let anyone listen to it yet. All I know is that I've heard it before, and I now believe that it spoke when it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at the time, but for some reason, the voice on the recorder immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts that must have gone through my daughter's head made me very upset. I have not seen the rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been in my room while I slept. I know in fear that one night I'll wake up to see him staring at me. Ooh. That picture of him was super creepy. I did not like that at all. No sirree, Bob. No, sir. Okay. Alright. I have a few options here. The smiling man, the teaching assistant, and the theater. Which one sounds interesting to you all? I'll probably only do a couple more here. Okay, let's do the smiling man. Oh, Jesus. Oh God, I'm gonna have nightmares. Okay, I'm gonna give you all a quick look at what this guy looks like, and then I'm immediately gonna go cry in a corner. Oh god. That's awful. Okay. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was definitely not a night person, went to sleep. Past the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, like walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite, but all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic, and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. The far end of the street on my side was the silhouette of a man, dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance-walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him a majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky, and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still, till I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully white cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, and then stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing, and was standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest moments I felt relieved, till I noticed him. He had crossed the street, and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance in the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time, staring at him. Then he started moving toward me again. He took giant, exaggerating, tiptoed steps, as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or my cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen as the smiling man crept towards me. And then he stopped again, but a car length away from me, still smiling his smile, still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. What I meant to ask was, "What do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. What came out was a whimper. What? Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid, but didn't react to it at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around, very slowly, and started dance-walking away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go, till he was far enough away to almost be out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore. Nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off of the side road and back into the better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile. But he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that's a very, very scary thing to see. Oh, interesting. I think a lot of us have had that kind of story. Maybe not to that extreme, but like, we swear we've seen people like watching us, and it just feels like they're completely watching us, and it's scary. Yeah, the Russian sleep experiment I've actually read a few times before. It's very interesting. I don't know. I could read it again. I want to read The Theater. That one sounds interesting. Alright, I'll pull it up again. That way you guys can see. Whatcha? The Theater. It's based off a game, apparently. Oh, sorry. Going back to the woods. Have you ever heard of an old game called The Theater? Yeah, didn't think so. Probably because many say it doesn't exist. You see, The Theater was an old game released around the same time as Doom. Today, if you ever find it, it's only available on crappy bootleg CD-ROMs, which, more often than not, don't even actually contain the game. The actual legitimate copies... Oh, sorry. The actual legitimate copies that they say were released back in the day feature a blank cover with nothing but the sprite of what had since been named the Ticket Taker. He is simply a poorly drawn, pixelated, bald Caucasian man with large red lips wearing a red vest over white shirt and black pants. He's completely expressionless, though some that say that if you smash the disc, his face is shown as angry the next time you look at the cover. Though this is just dismissed as an urban legend. What's peculiar about The Theater, though, is that there is no developer named on the jewel case, nor a game description on the back. It is simply the Ticket Taker on a white background on both sides. I mean, you can go eat food, it's okay. The game was initially known for its inability to install correctly. The installation progress immediately locks up the computer when the user reaches the licensing agreement. Also strange about the licensing agreement for The Theater is that whenever the development studio is supposed to be named, the text is simply a blank line. Anyways, most people who have claimed to owning an original copy of the CDs said that they figured out how to install the game by simply rebooting their computer and the licensing agreement with the disc still inside. Then they are prompted to press I agree on startup, then they continue with the installation. The player supposedly manages to find out what they believe to be a working copy. They have said that the installation window will freeze and stop responding before you can click your first next, but they also say that their PCs do not lock up and it is only the installer that freezes. It is unknown that these are actual copies or fakes, but it is widely thought that these working copies are just to draw attention, with no actual proof of the installation effects. Upon proper installation, the game then starts up without any introduction besides a main menu that is simply the sprite of a movie theater's exterior on an empty city street. The title fades in, and then the 3-button menus New Game, Load, Options. Selecting Options immediately crashes the game to the desktop. Load is said not to function at all. Even if you do not have a save game, nothing happens when you press it. Even if you do have a saved game, nothing happens when you press it. Thus, New Game is the only working menu option. Once it is selected... Sorry, let me move that down so you all can see better. Once it is selected, you are in the first-person view. You are standing in an empty movie theater lobby, with the exception of the ticket taker standing in front of you, a dark hallway which one can assume leads to the theaters themselves. There's nothing to do but look at the poorly drawn, mostly illegible movie posters or approach the ticket taker. Once the player moves towards the ticket taker, a very low-quality sound clip plays saying, "Thank you, please enjoy the movie," along with the speech box saying the same thing. You then walk into the hallway, and the screen fades to black, and you're back in the empty lobby, and you do the exact same thing again and again and again. While this may sound like a horrible game, A number of peculiar things occur as you continue to play it. The number of things that you have to continue into the hallway after giving your ticket to the ticket taker before the string of events happen is unknown. Most state that it's completely random and could take anywhere from the first playthrough to the 400th. What happens, though, has completely disturbed some players. The first occurrence is when the player fades back in after walking into the hallway. This time they will notice the ticket taker is completely absent. The player then, without any other options, decides to walk into the dark hallway. The sound clip and text box mentioned previously still play in the absence of the ticket taker. But when the player walks into the hallway, the screen does not fade out. It goes pitch black as they walk deeper into the hall, but the player's footsteps sound clip is still playing as they continue to push through the up button on their keyboard. Those claiming to have played the original game report they are feeling extremely uncomfortable walking down the hallway, anticipating the whole way something horrible happening. Eventually, the player is unable to move forward. There is nothing for a few moments before a strange bite that is described as the ticket taker but with a swirl for a face appears and stands before the player. The original players of the game say their bodies immediately froze up and their stomachs turned when they saw the sprite, which has apparently been named the Swirly Headman. Nothing happens as the Swirly Headman stands before them, and suddenly a piercing scream plays as the game glitches out. This lasts for a few minutes, with the screeching being continuous. Then the players abruptly return to the lobby, with all the sounds and graphics being as they should be. The game continues normally for the next couple of cycles of entering the hallway. The couple of the original players claiming the Swirly Headman would briefly appear and disappearing into the corner of the screen, as a brisk yelp sound effect plays. Then at some point after meeting the Swirly Headman, the player sees the ticket taker pacing back and forth. Though there is no walking animation, the sprite's limbs are completely static, so he just hops up and down slightly as a substitute, with his eyes being wide and his mouth open to simulate a worried facial expression. Some players noted that the movie posters have been replaced with images of the Swirly Man, which caused them immediately to turn their character's head away from the posters and approach the ticket taker. Then another, different low-quality sound clip plays. The speech box contains nothing but corrupted characters that cause whatever text that would have been in the box to be completely illegible. Due to the extremely low quality of the sound, it is debated by players what exactly the ticket taker says at this point, though it is widely agreed that he says, "Never reach the other levels." Then the screen... hold on. Yeah, then the screen fades out once again and returns the player back to their starting point in the lobby. But the ticket taker is gone and the hallway is blocked by a large brick wall sprite. Touching the brick wall will immediately crash the game, and that's all there is to it. No one knows what the other levels are, or how to access them, nor is it known by the Swirly Headman. It causes such acute fear in those who have seen him in the game. All the original copies of the theater have been either lost or destroyed, but the creepiest part is the fact that all the original players of the game claim to occasionally see a brief glimpse of the Swirly Headman out of the corner of their eyes. Okay. There's actually a remade version of the theater. It's a indie horror game that someone made based off this story. It was interesting. I think I watched Markiplier play it a while back. Okay. You will stay for what story only? This one? The theater? Or another story? Okay, no problem. Go to sleep now. Have a good day. Night. Okay, I'm gonna read one more, and it's called The Truth. You can't handle the truth. It is like a doctor's glove. Huh. Okay, one more scary story, and then I am going to go rethink my life choices about doing this on Halloween night. There's a certain allure in the chase, an enjoyment of the game itself. Win or lose, you're still playing, still making move and counter-move, full of energy and action. Throughout, there's a sense of importance that no other activity can match. The game is the game, but now it's over, and I'll admit, I miss the feeling. Although, having the horrible truth, possessing it and holding it close like a prized treasure, the truth can almost replace that feeling. I won. I felt that I was on the path to victory once I calmed down from my delusion about the patients escaping. I realized that I had quite a few cards in my hand to be played. My unknown opponent had made mistakes somewhere and allowed me far too many leads. But first, the girl I helped escape during my delusion was nowhere to be found. Her room was empty, and her file was deleted. None of the other staff could remember her, and I believe some of them. An old nurse like Mabel would not possibly be part of a conspiracy so dark and vast. Her primary concern was the next episode of her soaps. But I wrote about the girl. I have the words on my computer, and on the internet. I told no one here that I've been writing about patients. I would immediately be fired, for obvious reasons. Oh, goodness. I have the words, and I remember. Memories are tricky, as I know personally, but the words are still there. Furthermore, I went through the patients one by one looking for discrepancies. I could have just helped the girl escape while having an episode. That proved nothing, but while so deluded, I saw one patient carve up another. Ooh, even have his lung slide up against my shoe. Who is talking? Where am I? Hold on. Okay, the murdered patient was missing too. At that point, I had a few logical choices to consider about my opponent. A strong but imperfect case could have been made that somewhere in the maze of owners and financial backers and stockholders behind this place, some nefarious corporation had an agenda involving the patients and their various insanities. The likeliest intent was to incubate and refine mimetic hazards, ideas carefully constructed to infect anyone who heard them. Carefully constructed to spread and destroy. This would be a new kind of weapon, perhaps changing warfare forever. Our primary agent would have been the chief of medicine, and much to my paranoia, delusions and inconsistencies could have been explained by drugs and my painkillers, meant to imbalance me and discredit me should I uncover their agenda. The foremost problem with that theory is the lack of recall on the part of the staff. Perhaps some were lying, perhaps Mabel just rarely interacted with the girl. Perhaps some didn't care enough to remember individual patients, but all of them? It felt wrong. While an uncharacteristic downpour on the roof filled the building with the constant rhythm of heavy rain, I stalked the halls, eyeing everything. I asked the responsive patients if they remembered the girl, and they did. The only people that could remember her were patients, and me. It struck me as extremely important. No, the corporation angle didn't add up. The booming thunder outside added to my tension. There were other explanations. I could have been a patient myself. The signs were not lost on me. Claire had been employed here, and I suspected the chief to medicine had some idea she was off balance. But her particular brand of insanity was harmless. For most people, my bandaged hand had begun itching painfully sometime that morning, and it added an undercurrent of increasing anger to my strategizing. I dwelled often on the nature of memory and insanity. I had nothing to prove that I was not, myself, some sort of employed patient with a carefully crafted delusion of a normal life beyond the walls of the establishment. The sun did feel ages distant, but the rising storm outside made even that luxury impossible. All the specific memories I could recall had no basis other than whatever sanctity I granted them. I asked myself if it mattered. I asked myself where the logic would lead. It would lead backwards, to the conditions that created this situation. Someone like Claire, someone like me, potentially, employed to watch over the other patients. That meant critical underfunding, so much so that the moral and ethical lines had long since been redrawn or erased. It meant a world filling up with people, a world struggling for resources, a dark, dreary, and painful reality for the human race. There was a situation with no enemy, and thus no victory. Humanity would suffer increasingly as the population rose, and only some great disaster or rupturing of mortals would offer any salvation. Adding to the strength of that theory was the story of every patient here. The pressures and brutalities of society had pushed them all in this direction. Perhaps it was society itself that was insane, and these poor men and women were merely the most unfortunate victims of that derangement. The notion felt right, but my being insane required a crumbling society. Well, reverse, the existence of a crumbling society did not necessarily mean I was insane. These tracks had consumed my investigation, but I had been given a third option by the last patient I interviewed. He was a tale of deception and control, and it profoundly disturbed me. I'd been interrupted writing it up, but the more I thought about it, the more the pieces seemed to fit. A sudden spike in the intensity of the rain reminded me of something, and then it hit me. I'd read his story before. I'd read it on the internet. His file was missing from here. Had someone else read it and pulled it up? Or had he done it before his admission here? The details would have been lost to time, so I decided not to pursue them. It was the greater framework that was important. I began to entertain an expanded notion of reality, hypothetically. The Bone Walker had been real. It had been fighting some worse force on a grand scale. Who is the Bone Walker? Was that force also my opponent now? What was its concern with me? With this building and its patients? I had seen absolutely no indication of any outside force. I remember stiffening then. I stood in the hall, next to a window spreading rain-dappled shadow patterns on the floor. Knowingly, implicitly, that I had hit upon the first iota of the truth. Evidence was the deception. It had me delving in every direction except the right one. Unable to fully comprehend the massive idea building in my head, I made for the blind girl's room. I found her sitting in a different corner than before, but still writing. As I entered the room, my bandaged hand began to itch distractingly, and my headache returned. "Why won't you talk to me?" I asked her. I thought before that it might be because I'm crazy, like them, and don't know it, but now I think you know what's going on, and you're protecting yourself. Poised against paper, her pen stilled. "How are you asking that question?" "What do you mean? Should I not be able to ask questions?" "Not that one." I moved down on one knee, nearer her. Why? She glared at me with unseeing eyes. Sorry, why does it go all the way? Okay. Unseeing eyes. I widened my own eyes. You don't talk to anyone who... Suddenly, I was extremely uneasy. I raised my hands to my own temples. Gently feeling the skin near my eyes, I searched for any aberration. Sensation was disconcerting. Beneath my burning hand and increasingly sharp headache, I felt two conflicting results. My temples were smooth. The skin was soft and normal. My temples were both two strange, subtle, and irregular raised lines, like rough veins gone awry. "What the hell is it?" I breathed, wincing from a blast of pain in my head. "It's there and not there." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "What is it? What the hell is it?" I forced out, my face screwed up from continually rising pain that approached a crescendo that threatened to knock me unconscious. I struggled to breathe, even as little blurs and flickers appeared in my vision. "How many have this?" Hi, Prince. Where are my waves? I know I have a wave somewhere. Do I not have a wave emote up here? What the heck? Oh, there it is. Here, I give you the waves. And then we do the shoutouts. Thanks for saying hi, Prince of Rage. Welcome to the stream. Okay. Her lips trembled in response to my sounds of pain. Everybody, except the other patients. Surging with adrenaline and will, I stumbled from her room. running for the emergency operation room. I pushed the door in forcibly, almost falling from the pain, and rushed for the tools. Facing the mirror, I fought the blinding pain and blurry vision to see. I could see it. The little ridges were plainly visible, running from my eyes, across my temples, and around the back of my head like some horrible lobotomy line. I picked my temple with a scalpel. Ugh! Ugh! Blood welled out, but I ignored it, instead carefully prying at the ridge with a gripping tool. My vision flashed black and white. I did not relent. I pulled at the foreign tissue underneath. I screamed in agony, but refused to pass out. Slowly, so painfully slowly, I pulled out a long, stringy fiber. Hanging from my bleeding temple, gripped in my tool, I knew that this was it. This was part of it. I considered the impossible, and I'd been right. The pain immediately lessened as I cut the fibrous tissue as close to my skin as I could. There was still some inside, near my eyes, and all the fiber on the other side of my head, but this was a start. Holding it up, I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. It looked like nerve tissue, stringy, webbed, made of tiny little fibers. And that's what the blind girl had said when she was first admitted. She'd said that she wouldn't talk to anyone with nerve fibers in their temples. What? But she'd been here for years. I repeated the same procedure on the other side. My headache was still barely there, but I felt vindicated and relieved. Was that it? Was I free? And what the hell were these nerve fibers? Some sort of infection or parasite? By themselves, these fibers couldn't have possibly controlled or deceived me. There simply wasn't enough tissue for a complex interaction with the brain. In fact, the fibers looked like they were from an optic nerve. It was sensory tissue designed to fool the senses? That made a sick sort of sense. Connected by my eyes and ears, and probably my brain directly through my optic nerve, these fibers could completely deceive my senses, perhaps even my memories. She'd said I shouldn't have been able to ask that question. How much control did these fibers normally exert? And why was I now able to detect them, even remove them? I'll be honest, I feel like breaking down and crying then. Both at my sudden freedom and vindication, and at the implied utter domination I'd lived under for so long, possibly years. I probably would have broken down if I did not have some terrible notion that these fibers received signals of control from somewhere else. The opponent. After cleaning up my blood, I took a quick and surreptitious circle around the halls. Mabel smiled at me and then turned away. A subtle ridge was evident on the side of her head. She was infected. I kept walking, kept looking. They all were. I returned to the safety of the emergency operation room as the pain in my head began rising again. I looked in the meal, horrified. I could literally see the skin on my temples rising as the nerve fibers inside began to regenerate. I remember quite clearly. I laughed out loud, a hearty, dark, full-belly laugh. This was too much. Infecting me, growing back even if I cut it out? What the hell was I supposed to do? My laugh died as my medical knowledge supplied an answer. Disinfecting my hands and donning gloves, I prepared for something I knew was probably insane. And I promised myself I wouldn't cross that line when I came to it, but oh how foolish I had been then. And I readied several mirrors. I had no painkillers, so I couldn't risk dulling my amateur surgical ability. Breathing hard, searching with adrenaline, I placed a separation tool against my eyelids and ratcheted them open. Ah! 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 No! No, stop! Don't take out your eyes! I steeled myself again for what I was about to do. Ah! My eyes slid out more easily than I'd expected. Oh, God. Just an inch or two, just enough to keep the optic nerve at tension. Frozen with unbelievable discomfort and pain the likes of which I'd never imagined, I brought the scalpel up, carefully cutting away the connected foreign nerve fibers. 5 breaths, 10, 20. I took as long as I could stand it, carefully severing the connections at their base. He's gonna cut his eyes! My animal mind screamed incessantly in my head. I could see my own eye out of my head. Oh, God! See a bundle of blood vessels and nerves connecting it, but I fought the impulse to panic. I pulled the rest of the nerve fibers out through the side of my eye socket. Oh god, I don't like those images, that's so gross! They came quite easily from that direction, and then incredibly I was done. I carefully took my eye between my gloved fingers and slid it back in. I took 5 minutes to calm myself, to test my eye, to let my panic subside, and then I did the other eye. There's no way you'd be able to do that without passing out. Are you freaking kidding me? No way! There's no way! Oh, God! Ugh. By the time I finished, my headache was gone. The nerve fibers did not regenerate. I'd gotten them all. For an hour, I lay in that room, enjoying my freedom, thinking, breathing, calming. Where did those nerve fibers come from? There was unmistakably a will behind the ongoing deception. Who was it? What was it? Deception would not have worked against the Bonewalker slaves. They did not know the reasons behind their actions. They simply followed its orders on threat of death. And the patients were free of the fibers. Why? The illuminating realization struck me that the reason was quite possibly the same as I might have been for society. Containment. The people here were dangerous, and their insanities even more so. Maybe all the explanations shared a common thread. The world was dark and grim, growing overpopulated as my mentor had said, creating increasingly virulent and dangerous insanities on sheer weight of numbers and probability. And maybe this other force, whatever had infected people with nerve fibers and used deception for some purpose. The next step was obvious. I wouldn't want my nerve fibers connected to a brain full of delusion and virulent ideas. I wouldn't want those ideas broadcasting through my network of nerve fiber-controlled slaves, infecting them, ruining them, destroying them, and possibly freeing them. I was losing my mind. I knew it then, quite certainly. The painkillers, the exhaustion, the obsession, I'd let the other patients' delusions get to me, regarding their ideas as increasingly real, and there I was, free. That was why I could now see the nerve fibers, why they constricted around my skull, why they fought me at every step. It was ironic, really. The doctor became the patient, growing insanity, bringing reality. My stories were on the internet. His story, the male patient had stabbed out his own eyes. His story was on the internet. How is it that the opponent allowed such a thing to happen and spread? Was it the same notion that kept the patients here contained and uncontrolled? Was the idea itself anathema to its network of control? It couldn't identify the ideas, couldn't regard them, without understanding them, becoming infected. I was laughing often, alone in that room, as the logical steps increasingly fell into place. There is no defense against an idea. I walked back into the hall a new man. I was free, and there was nothing the opponent could do. It could no longer regard me, no longer think of me. I must not exist to it, because to acknowledge me would be to think of me, and then understand me, and then become infected. I had the black and hilarious notion that the nerve fibers would probably have left me on their own accord at some point, had I allowed my descent into madness to continue. "What did you do to yourself?" the chief of medicine shouted, seeing me from down the hall. I heard him call urgently for orderlies, but thunder obscured his first shout. I ran. The side door's lock had been fixed. Damn it. I used my keys, unlocking each door as I passed, releasing the patients as a distraction. I heard the orderly shouting and organizing somewhere nearby. I had a sudden idea as I passed through the maintenance room. It was easier than I expected. I flipped the circuit breakers and all the lights went out. As I emerged back into the hall, set strangely at home in darkness and rotating red emergency light, the only sounds were the rain slamming against the roof and intermittent thunder. Strange, I'd imagined this, or not imagined this, the night before. No, this time, there was rain. I grabbed my laptop from the on-call room, slung it over my shoulder in its bag, and ditched my white coat. I stuffed as many snacks from the vending machine in my bag as I could, promising to pay it back someday for the broken glass and cost of what I took. Screams and grunts filled the shifting darkness. I could hear staff members shouting and trying to find one another. I could hear patients muttering, someone is screaming in pain. Didn't he take his eyes out, though? He can't see, can he? I smiled as I crept through the darkness. The confusion was working perfectly. Thunder shook the building as I approached the main door. The area was empty. As the orderlies contended with their escaped patients, I was free. "Wait," he called, as I put my hand against the door. I could hear a rain slicking the other side. "Don't do it." It was my mentor. "I've been following your actions as best I could," he explained, concerned. "That patient at the far end of the far wing, we keep him back there. Then as little as possible for a reason. Remember what I said to you?" I stared back at him, ready to bolt through the door, but willing to hear him out. "His psychosis. It's infected you," he shouted over the grunts and screams of the back halls. "And I know you believe insanity is a choice. Choose to stay, to remain here, to be part of the staff in real life." I turned away, ready to leave. "What's out that door for you?" he asked loudly. "What are you going to do? Run? Hide from society? Hurt people for whatever reasons you've come to believe?" His reasoning and compassion made sense. Perfect sense. I hesitated. Was I really that far gone? What if I did accept that reality? Whether some entity was deceiving me or not, life was decent enough, right? This was the moment. I felt it. Out that door, I was de facto insane, at least compared to whichever reality society bought as true. Hence I was one of them, a staff member, accepted, and normal. Here I was one of them, a staff member accepted and normal. Made too much sense, it was too perfect. "It's you," I realized, practically screaming it. Lit in crimson, he shook his head, confused. I didn't expect the opponent to reveal itself, just because I'd figured out that it was speaking through my mentor. No, his body's reaction was perfect, deceptively real. Thunder boomed and I pushed out into the rain, running for my life. Life will be a bit harder from here on out, I'm sure. I'm outside the construction of society's reality. But it can't regard me anymore, can't think of me, without risking itself. I am free to move undetected and ignored, for the most part. I think I'll change my name, get a job, put on a facade of normalcy, and operate from behind a mask, because it must ignore me, so the only people I have to fool are other humans. It can't stop my ideas, which I release to stop the world like the virus they are. We are all being deceived, every one of us. I saw the true nature of the world once the rain cleared. I see what has really happened to us. I was on a hill outside the city when the clouds parted, and the blessed sun finally brought long-sought relief. I had seen indications of the truth as I ran through the rain, but the darkness and water obscured the extent. I stood and looked down at the city. Growths hung high up between buildings, street lamps and trees, thick ropey fibers, nerve fibers. It infested most everything, wrapped around the trappings of civilization like a strangling vine. I had a flash of understanding then, this infestation stretching the world over most certainly. Nerves, neurons, brains, interconnected, deceived. A similar network to the internet itself. The entity may have begun as just an idea, a meme, or a mutation somewhere, spread from there, and now it was a massive parasite on humanity. I could feel its past influence on me, now that it was gone, and I understood what it wanted. More. It wants more people, more brains, more stress, more consumption. It loves caffeine, it loves stimulants of any kind, but caffeine especially. It wants you to drink more, it wants you to eat more, it wants you to consume and reproduce, as it guides the human race towards some dark and unknown goal. The pressure it creates, humanity's own needs sharpened to the extent, crush whole swaths of people underfoot. Oh, we're at the end of this. Whether it be body image or the desperation of being poor on the street, or financial slavery to massive debt, or the need for affection, or, in my case, the basic desire to believe that suffering is not the normal fundamental nature in life, whatever your stress, your weakness, it will grind increasing numbers of us up and push us past our limits of will and reason, for it is society, and it is us, and we are all expendable. But today is the first day of the resistance. I post now from free wireless at a coffee shop, smiling at passerby. The opponent cannot regard me, and everyone else is consumed in their own private struggle against society's extreme and rising pressures. They're all too stressed to notice that someone like me, someone insane, as compared to society's reality, is sitting amongst them. After this post, I'll disappear even from here, and no one will be the wiser. But don't worry, this is my life's work now. I took my scalpel and tools with me. I will find you, and I will free you all, one pair of eyes at a time. What? That took a turn I was not expecting. That was a really long story, but there was a lot of social stuff in there, like about society in general and how we function, like as a race. Like, dang. That person was trying to teach us something. Oh, oh goodness. Wow, I am like, my brain is blown. Like, it wasn't like horribly creepy, like, you know, a creature in the middle of the night kind of creepy, but it was a kind of creepy that like gets into your brain that you think about in the middle of the night. Like, huh, interesting. It's about like seeing beyond sight, that sort of like realizing that there is more than what you can see, like that your eyes are deceiving at a basic level. Interesting, very interesting. But please don't take my eyes. I need those. I need to stream. I need to write. Ugh, I gotta make my merch. Alright, I'm thinking one more, because we're almost at the 3-hour mark, so I'm thinking maybe one more. My eyes! I know, right? I need those! What the heck? Okay. This one kind of calls out to me at a title level. I don't know why. It's called We Danced. It's just a light bulb. We dance. Footsteps aren't— oh, this is very short. Okay. This is it. This is it. Footsteps aren't an uncommon thing to hear when you're sitting in a basement. I might do 2 more. This is very short. So I think nothing of it when I hear quiet thuds coming from my upstairs hallway. I just assume it's my brother, continue doing whatever pointless little thing I was doing at the time. They go on for another couple of minutes, and I'm starting to get pissed off. They keep getting louder and louder, and I sigh, wondering what the hell my brother's doing up this late at night. I sit there, because it's impossible to focus with all the racket. I mean, it sounds like someone's power walking all over my main floor. I sit there and listen as the thumps get faster and wilder. They just keep moving, almost starting to form a rhythm. They move even faster and get even wilder, and they're thumping all over the main floor. I realize that whatever it is, it can't be human. No human can move like that. What the fuck? I finally yell. After the noises stop. Everything is quiet for a moment, and then I hear calm, slow footsteps moving to my basement door. The door is pushed open. The footsteps stop again. I listen to my breathing for the next 3 minutes, then sigh, thinking it's over. Turns out something else was listening too. Suddenly I hear it thudding down the stairs. I knock my chair over in my haste to stand up. I start to run towards the nearest closet, just in time to see a grotesque, hairless, 4-legged creature dancing towards me, tapping its swollen feet into an intoxicating rhythm. I dive into the closet and slam the door shut. There's a half-second pause, and then I hear that same rhythm on the floor. It just keeps going and going with no pause, no rest, no relief. He's been at it for hours now, and I find myself tapping my fingers along with his song. But then, just as suddenly as it began, it ends. I wait for a few moments, then look out. He's gone. I flip on a light and fall into a chair. It's safe. I relax and think for a few moments. But then I notice my foot tapping. Maybe this song isn't so bad. I almost like it enough to dance to it. So I drop down on my hands and feet, and I start. Ooh, I like that. Short and sweet. Alright, one more, because that was so short. Okay. I'm assuming this is about aliens? Possibly? It's called We Know You Are Out There. Message begins. We made a mistake. That is the simple, undeniable truth of the matter, however painful it might be. The flaw was not in our observatories, for those machines were as perfect as we could make, and they showed us only the unflittered light of truth. The flaw was not in the predictor, for it is a device of pure, infallible logic, turning raw data into meaningful information without the taint of emotion or bias. No, the flaw was within us, the orchestrators of this disaster, the sentients who thought themselves beyond such failings. We are responsible. Began a short while ago, as these things are measured less than 6 delay ago, though I suspect our systems of measure will mean very little by the time anyone receives this transmission. We detected faint radio signals from a blossoming intelligence 2-14, D-list outward from the galactic core as photons travel. At first, crude and unstructured, these leaking broadcasts quickly grew in complexity and strength, as did the messages they carried. Through our observatories, we watched a race of strife and violence, populated by a barbaric race of short-lived, fast-breeding vermin. They were brutal and uncultured things which stabbed and shot and burned each other with no regard for life or purpose. Even their concepts of art spoke of conflict and pain. They divided themselves according to some bizarre cultural patterns and set their every industry to cause of death. I think they're talking about humans. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. They terrified us. But we were older and wiser and so very far away, so we did not fret. And we watched them split the atom and breach the heavens within the breath of one of their single short generations. We began to worry. When they began actively transmitting messages and greetings into space, we felt fear and horror. Their transmissions promised peace and camaraderie to any who were listening, but we had watched them for too long to buy into their transparent deceptions. They knew we were out there, and they were coming for us. The orchestrators consulted the predictor, and the output was dire. They would multiply and grow and flood out their own home system like some unaccountable tide of devourer worms, consuming all that lay in their path. It might take that 6-8 D-lease, but they would destroy us if left unchecked. With aching carapaces, we decided to act and seal our fate. The gift of mercy was 8. I don't get all these mathematical numbers, but 8 upscore strides, long with the mouth 2/4 that in diameter, filled with many 4 weights of machinery, fuel, and ballast. It would push itself up to 2/8 of light speed with its onboard fuel, and then began to consume interstellar primary element 2/2 to feed its unlimited acceleration. It would be traveling at nearly light speed when it hit. They would never see it coming. Its launch was a day of mourning, celebration, and reflection. The horror of the act we committed weighed heavily upon us all, and the necessity of our crime did little to comfort us. The gift had barely cleared the outer cometary halo when the mistake was realized, but it was too late. The gift could not be caught, could not be recalled or diverted from its path. The architects and work crews, horrified at the awful power of the thing upon which they labored, had quietly self-terminated in droves, walking unshielded into radiation zones, neglecting proper null pressure, safety, or simply ceasing their nutrient consumption until their metabolic functions stopped. The appalling cost and lives had forced the orchestrators to streamline the gift's design and construction. There had been no time for the design or implementation of anything beyond the simple, massive engines and the stabilizing systems. We could only watch in shame and horror as the light of genocide faded in an infrared against the distant void. They grew, and they changed. In a handful of lifetimes, they abolished war, abandoned their violent tendencies, and turned themselves to the grand purpose of life and art. We watched them remake first themselves and then their world. Their frail, soft bodies gave way to gleaming metals and plastics. They unified their people through the omnipotent communications grid and produced art of such power and emotion, the likes of which the galaxy has never seen before. Or again, because of us. They converted their home and world into a paradise by their standards, and many 10 upscore 6s of them poured out into the surrounding system with a rapidity and vigor that we can only envy. With bodies built to survive every environment from that daylit surface of their innermost world to the atmosphere of their largest gas giant and the cold void in between, they set out to sculpt their system into something beautiful. At first we thought them to be simply miners, stripping the rocky planets and moons for vital resources. But then we began to see the purpose of their constructions. The artworks carved into every surface and traced among the system in glittering lights and dancing fusion trails, and still our terrible gift approached. They had less than 2 upscore 2D light to see it, following so closely on the tail of its own light. In that time, oh so brief even by their fleeting lives, more than 10 upscore 10 sentients prepared for death. Lovers exchanged last words, separated by worlds and tyranny of light speed. Their planet-side engineers worked frantically to build sufficient transmissions, to upload countless masses with the necessary neural modification, while those above dumped lifetimes of music and literature from their databanks to make room for passengers. Those lacking the required software of the time to acquire it consigned themselves to death, lashed out in fear and pain, or simply went about their lives as best they could under the circumstances. The gift arrived suddenly, the light of its impact visible in our skies, shining bright and cruel even to our unaugmented ocular receptor. We watched and we wept for our victims, dead so many D-lives before the light of their doom had even reached us. Many 6 upscore 4s of those who had been directed or even targetably tangentially involved in the creation of the gift sealed their spiracles was passed as a final penance for the small roles they played in this atrocity. The light dimmed, the dust cleared, and our observatories refocused upon the place where their shining blue world had once hung in the void. Found only dust on the pale gleam of an orphaned moon, wrapped in a thin burning wisp of atmosphere that had once belonged to its parents. Radiation and oh my gosh, these big words. Relativistic shrapnel had wiped out much of the inner system, and continent-sized chunks of molten rock carried screaming ghosts outward at interstellar escape velocities, damned to wander the great void for an eternity. The damage was apocalyptic, but not complete. From the shadows of the outer worlds, tiny points of light emerged, thousands of fusion trails of single ships and world ships and everything in between, many 10 upscore 6s of survivors in flesh, and steel and memory banks ready to rebuild. For a few moments we felt relief, even joy, and we were filled with the hope that their culture and all art would survive this terrible blow we had dealt them. Then came the message. Tightly focused at our star, transmitted simultaneously by hundreds of their ships. We know you are out there, and we are coming for you. They fucked up. Sincerely. That's not really scary from, like, I guess it is from their perspective. It is interesting to see that perspective. You know, I would be kind of scared too. If I knew that, like, there was another race and culture out there, and, you know, knowing the human race, how much death and destruction we cause, like, I would be scared. I don't know if I would want to eradicate them, but I would be scared. And then knowing, you know, that no matter what you do, they gonna come back. Very, very interesting. Okay. I like the space stories. Those are interesting. Alright. I think I'm good. I need to hydrate myself and get some rest. So let me take you back to the woods. And then we're gonna close this up by going back to the see you soon screen. Alright, so I'm gonna find someone to raid. Let me see here. Ooh, Pandora's playing Layers of Fear, which is very spooky and very amazing. You should definitely go check out Pandora. I love him, and he is one of my mods, actually. I don't see him a lot in stream, but I am assuming he tries to come when he can, so... please go check him out. Layers of Fear is actually super, super cool, so I recommend seeing it, playing it, all of those good things. Thanks everybody for coming to stream and for protecting me from these terrible monstrosity creatures that are going to haunt my nightmares. I appreciate it, and I hope you all had some fun and were able to get a little spooked during all that nonsense. So please go and raid Pandora, and I will see you all next time. Bye!